Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'd like to take a look at the Many Lycanrocs of GLC. Now, this video was supposed to release in October, with Lycanroc being a spooky Pokemon, and I guess a werewolf, if you will. But yeah, I got very ill, so sadly, no more videos could be recorded at that time. So yeah, has to be a November slot, sadly, for Lycanroc. But yeah. So what is GLC for those of you who don't know? It's a single prize only, no rulebox format, so the likes of GX, V-Star, EX, Megas, all that fancy shabam is not allowed. It is singleton, except for basic energy, otherwise that would be of course a bit brutal. And there is only one type per deck. Sometimes this does matter for certain Pokemon evolution lines, but for Lycanroc, everyone's fighting basically, so yeah, that's great. So, just some notable rock pups before we get going. 70 HP with 1 retreat cost is probably your best bet, and you can splash out on a single strike art rare if you really want to. Now, the one exception I will make is the 60 HP Rockruff with the attack corner from the Guardians Rising expansion during the Sun and Moon era, just because it prevents your opponent's active Pokemon from retreating, can be relevant in some situations, so just thought that was worth bearing in mind. But the first Lycanroc we can take a look at here is a promo. Now, sadly, this guy is 90 damage, flip a coin of heads, does 120. Really don't need to spend too long on this card. It's pretty bad. It's just really bad. Like, 120 is slightly more than some of the other Lycanrocs might do, but, it's a promo at the end of the day. It's really not very good, sadly. Next up, though, is we have some ones from Burning Shadows. Now, they really tried for one of these Lycanrocs, and no points to guess which one it is. The one on the left is just abysmal, but the one on the right is honestly pretty interesting and pretty cool. So Dangerous Claws does 30 damage, and if your opponent's active as a basic, it does 60 instead, which is quite nice. If you've gone first, you can then evolve into Lycanroc on your second turn, and then hopefully, KO, or at the very least, soften up whatever basic Pokemon they have. And you are fighting types, so you do have access to stuff like Strong Energy to ramp this up to 80, or if you really wanted to. So I definitely like Dangerous Claws as an attack, it's really fun. And then Corner for fighting double colors does 90, and if defending Pokemon can't retreat during your opponent's next turn. So kind of a level upgrade from the Rock Pup. I keep wanting to call him Rock Pup, but it's not his name, it's Rockruff. Yeah, it's a level up from Corner quite a bit, but yeah. Still, I really like this Lycanroc on the far right here. It's probably my favorite in the list as well, but yeah, definitely think it's really cool. It's just a shame that they didn't really try harder for other Lycanrocs, really. But yeah, it's a very cool card. Then we have the one from Forbidden Light, and you do get access to a pre-release promo if you want the rarity upgrade, but honestly, I think this card is kind of aged badly, sadly. It's 120 HP Stage 1 with the attack Dangerous Rogue, which for fighting colorless does 20 damage and then 20 more for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon, which just so happens to be very similar to attackers that are basics that we have right now, such as Flamigo and Persimmon from the Scarlet and Violet era. Now, I still think there is perks, the fact that this is a Stage 1 does mean you have access to Stage 1 buffs like Muscle Dumbbells to give this guy plus 40 HP. You could also make the argument that if you want to run Flamigo as well as his Lycanroc, then that's fine. You essentially get access to the same attack twice, which is still a good point to make. And of course, all the other stuff still applies. You can still use counter energy on this and all the rest of it. So it's still a good card. I think it's interesting, but it's definitely aged a bit poorly, sadly. But, definitely one of the more interesting ones for sure. Then we have this one, which is sadly handicapped quite badly by the fact that its ability, Boiling Blood, only works if your opponent has any GX or EX in play. So this is definitely one of the downsides of GLC, is that there's a lot of single price Pokemon that will interact with Roblox Pokemon, and sadly, none of them are relevant, or at least their specific abilities aren't relevant. Ones like Mimikyu, where their attack is, still pretty good, are fine, but this one is an instance of it being a bit grim, so sadly, this attack cost would have cost 3 colors less if your opponent had GX or EX in play, but sadly, never going to happen. So for 3 colors energy, Voltage Claw does 60 damage, whoopee. However, if your opponent's active Pokemon has any special energy attached to it, this attack will do 70 more. So you can do 130, but even at that point, for 3 colors, honestly don't think it's worth it. Even against a Porygon deck, I still don't think it's worth it. It's quite a lot of energy to just do 130, so, I know this one was doing 90 for 3, but that additional effect is very potent. This one's just like, This won't even be every matchup as well. That's a crazy thing. So sometimes they'll just be here to do 60, and at that point it's terrible and not worth setting up. So yeah, sadly gets a thumbs down from me. Very cool artwork though, very cool. Then we have another pretty boring one. However, I will say this guy does do 150, and during your next turn, this Pokemon can't use Slashing Strike. You know what, 150, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, isn't terrible damage-wise. It's not great, obviously. But, you combine this with, the new, what's it called, Calamity Mountain or something? The new mountain from Surging Sparks that reduces Stage 2 HP by -30. Means you can actually KO Stage 2s with this, but for 2 fighting in a colorless, I mean, you're really going to go to all that effort? Probably not. Next up is we have a one that is aggressively boring. Sharpmane will KO, most evolving basics, but aside from that, a very bland card. Then we have a one from Chilling Reign, which is a very, very cool one, I will say this. For 2 fighting energy, Rogue Fangs does 80 damage, and then 10 more damage for each single strike Pokemon in your discard pile. And there is some good ones, like this Hariyama with the ability Guts, which is really cool, so you make your opponent go through Hariyama while you set up your other Pokemon. You've also got other attackers like Machamp, which doesn't interact with single strike Pokemon specifically, but does do it for fighting type Pokemon anyway. So Matcha Revenge does 20 damage for each fighting Pokemon in your discard pile. I just thought that was worth mentioning. Pretty interesting. So you could basically just try and sack a load of fighting type Pokemon and then swing with Machamp or Lycanroc. Probably want to do Lycanroc before Machamp, just so you get the extra 40 damage. So yeah, I just thought that was quite a fun deck to mention. Maybe a cool deck idea, probably better ways of playing this. But yeah, just thought it was worth mentioning. Then we have my second favorite, maybe my favorite actually, not going to lie. We have the one from Crown Zenith, Crown Zenith, one of the only original cards from that set, I believe, as well. For a fighting colorless, Midnight Fang does 240 damage, which is an awful lot, but does 80 less for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So if you do build around, like Crushing Hammers, Team Flare Grunt, that sort of thing, even like Giovanni's Charisma to charge up energy, Team Star Grunt, that sort of thing, the Midnight Fang can be quite potent. 240 is a lot of damage to be doing. So it does take quite a bit of work, and, against something like a Blastoise deck where they're going to put 4 energy on Gyarados, then, or, whatever it is they're playing, Articuno, that's going to suck for you personally. But, Midnight Fang is still most of the time 240 damage. It's a lot. So, just thought that was worth bearing in mind. Then we have the one from Obsidian Flames with the attack Finishing Fang. Does 90 damage, 1 energy, which isn't too bad. But if your opponent's active Pokemon has no damage counters on it before this attack does damage, this attack does nothing. So it's exclusively a 2-hit KO move, effectively. Which still isn't that bad, it's still quite handy for 1 energy. I recently picked up one of these, by the way. I thought it was quite cool. But it also has some synergy with this Mediacham with the attack Pure Power, which allows you to put 4 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon any way you like. I just thought this was worth bringing up, just because Pure Power would allow you to put a damage counter on, say, 4 of your opponent's Pokemon that you would then want to use Finishing Fang against. Like, I know that 100 damage isn't, like, a lot, so you do have to bear that in mind. And maybe you might have to Pure Power just 1 Pokemon and then Lycanroc Finishing Fang them, but I did think it was worth mentioning in some capacity. But yeah, still not the most bland one on the list for sure. Then we have a one from Temporal Forces. Now this one is awfully similar to another Mediacham, funnily enough, and this one does accelerate energy from the discard pile, so it's slightly different to that Mediacham. However, it does have 10 more HP. So what I would say in this instance is, if you want this kind of energy acceleration, is there like any other Lycanrocs that you want to play in your deck? Is there any other Mediachams you want to play in your deck? And basically just pick one, So if you want to play the Ancient Trait Mediacham, that's pretty cool. Play that, then play this Lycanroc, vice versa. If there's another Lycanroc you want to play that, and then play this Mediacham. So, just thought it was worth mentioning. 50 damage is whatever, but the energy acceleration is quite nice, especially in a type such as fighting types where energy acceleration is a bit brutal. So then we have thank you for watching. I didn't realize that was the last one, actually. Was that the last one? Yeah, it must be. So yeah, thank you for watching. I do a new set review for GLC with each new release, so do subscribe if you're interested in being updated. My most recent one at this point will be Surging Sparks. This is now a series to stay, of course, so let me know which Pokemon you'd like to see. Working through some suggestions left, including Gardevoir and some Gen 1 fossils. And if you want to dive into the competitive side, OmniPoke and the format creator Tricky Jim have both done fantastic videos and guides for each type. But yeah, it's been Power. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know what you think down below. And yeah, thank you for watching.